Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and do some more turkey patterning, and today we've actually got our first hot day of the year. It's not even quite 10 o'clock yet and we're already over 80 degrees in early April with all the humidity as well. We've got turkey testing to do and we've got a really interesting combo today. It may work out nicely or it could be a little disappointing. These shells could legitimately go either way. I haven't really seen a ton of impressive results from them in the past, but through this setup, they might work out halfway decently. We'll see what it's capable of at the very least. But first, we'll start with the shotgun I've got today, that being this. This is a 1952 Browning A-5. It's a 12 gauge, 2 3/4 inch only chamber, 28-inch barrel with a fixed full choke. The choke on this particular shotgun is roughly a 685 for a constriction, so a little tighter than your standard full that we have today, but that might actually work out nicely with these particular shells. We've tested this old shotgun several times for turkeys, especially this spring, since I probably am going to want to hunt with this, and it has actually shown us some surprisingly capable 40-yard turkey patterns, but it definitely likes some loads more than it does others. So we'll see how this particular shell that we've got today actually plays with this as a system, because it may work or it may not. Before the shells I've got today, I brought out some more of the Federal Grand Slam turkey loads. Been quite a while since we've tested any of these, but in the past, they have been less than impressive, to be honest with you. These ones are a 12 gauge, 2 3/4 inch, 1.5 ounce payload of lead 5s at about 1200 feet per second. To be fair, I have never tested the 2 3/4 Grand Slams, so we'll see what they give us. But they do indeed have the Federal Flight Control Flex Wad with copper plating and buffer material as well. I am not a big fan of that Flex Wad in particular. The regular Flight Control is the better performer, but that may actually play into our favor. We have a little more open of a choke. That's a fixed choke at that, so maybe that combo might work out and give us a surprisingly nice 40-yard capable turkey pattern, but we'll see what the Grand Slams can do through a much older school setup like this. Before our test today, we've got everything set up the same as usual. Even though that's an older setup, I'm not going to handicap it at all. I want to see if it is indeed 40-yard capable, so that's where our target is set up, and we've got the chrono as well to get the velocity. So let's get you guys to view that target and see if a 70-year-old Browning with a fixed full choke can actually give us a decent turkey pattern out to 40 with the Federal Grand Slams. I think the limitations are actually going to be more on the shells part to actually perform up to our standards, but let's take our shot and actually see what we can get. All right, that shell gave us 1237 through the chrono. Boss claim was 1200, so we're a little bit over it, but still well within the realm of reason here. So looking good for a velocity, but did we actually get a 40-yard capable turkey pattern out of that old setup? Let's go check it out and see what we got. All right, so here's our 40-yard target, and it's okay, I guess, but it's honestly about what I expected to see out of these particular Grand Slam shells. Do we have a dead bird first off at 40? I think it's pretty close. We've got a couple of them kind of right in the upper neck area there that I think would have done the job. Technically, may have not hit spine or brain, but there's a bunch of big nerves and arteries and stuff like that that run through there that I think we would have caught, and that kind of continues down there. We've got a couple close to the spine in the middle of the neck, but that bird might have been a little bit close to getting away from you. I do think the pattern might have favored just a hair high maybe, and our core might have been just a hair to the left within the pattern, but I don't think it really would have mattered quite where we put that pattern. I think it's still going to give us a pretty similar result, where this is probably 40-yard capable, but I think if I'm going to be running this particular shell combo out of that gun, 35 and in or 30 and in is where we really need to be at. And initially here, if you've already seen our Remington Nitro turkey test with that gun, and even the Winchester Super X4s with that gun, you know that this is not nearly as capable as what we can get for patterns at 40 yards. Obviously, that setup is not as good as a modern dedicated turkey setup is, but even this is still nowhere near as good as what we have been able to get from that shotgun, even out here at 40 yards for turkeys. Now, for our core area, it might be just a hair in front of that bird's head area, but it really doesn't make too much of a difference. We might have a few more pellets within there than we do, say, right above it here. We start picking up a lot of voids and stuff, and the farther we get to the edges, the more scattered we get, especially down there around the bottom as well. So, I mean, for a general field load type setup, or if you wanted to wing shoot with a turkey shell, even though it's more shell than what you need in one of these old Brownings, I mean, that would do it just fine for you for those scenarios. But when it comes to turkeys, not nearly as good as what we have seen. So now we've kind of got an idea on what it looks like with a turkey's head there, but let's pull that turkey target down. I'll finish drawing all of our circles and counting some pellets, and let's get ourselves a little better idea on how it actually patterned, because it may look a little bit better with just circles rather than having that turkey paper in the way. Okay, so now we've got our turkey target out of the way. We can actually see where our core is and how the rest of the pattern looks. And it's still about like what I thought it was coming into it here. It's an okay pattern. It would make for a great just general field load type of use. But when it comes to turkey patterning itself, it is probably 40-yard capable through that setup, but it is not as good as what we have seen yet again. And I would probably limit myself to 30, maybe 35 yards if I'm running this particular setup and combination for turkeys. But moving into our 10-inch circle here, it's a pretty decently even coverage there, but it's not a ton of pellets within that 10-inch ring. We have 60 of them within there. That is a good enough core to do the job if you have it centered up. Outside of that, with our 20-inch leeway ring, we have an additional 78 pellets, and you can see the farther we get out from that core, the thinner our pattern starts to get, and that trend continues all the way down there to the bottom and around the edges and stuff with a bunch of little straggly flyers and strings. So overall, on its own, this is not a bad pattern.
And I will go ahead and jump in voiceover here to better explain what I was saying in person. Again, not a bad pattern at all for what it is. We gotta remember it's a 70-year-old shotgun with a fixed full choke and a shell that isn't known to be an amazing performer. So this really isn't bad. It is indeed 40-yard capable, but it might not be quite as good as what we have seen from some other combos we've tried. But you can tell that it tried to condense itself down. Maybe that flight control wad worked out a little bit for us through this fixed choke, so it definitely tried. It's almost there. It's probably just not quite enough to finish it out perfectly, but it is still not bad and technically would still be capable. You could definitely push it to 40, but at 30 to 35 yards, a turkey's gonna absolutely get hammered with that kind of spread still, and that's perfectly fine for a 70-year-old shotgun.
And here is that flight control flex wad from that shell. You can see the flex wads have these little slots up the side here compared to the normal flight control wad that has the big square flap. These are not as good of a performing wad. Based on my testing, these have always been pretty mediocre in the grand scheme of things. I don't think you really gain much with these in particular over any other regular old turkey wad, regardless of what choke you put them through as well. But no damage, nothing stuck in there, the tail fins open just like they should, and looks very much normal overall. Just not quite enough constriction probably to just bring these in that little bit more, but not entirely surprising here overall. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that performance right there? It's not a bad pattern in of itself. It's pretty even for the most part. Starts to get a little bit thinner as you get towards the edges maybe. Doesn't have a screaming tight core necessarily either. But when it comes to turkey patterns in particular, we have seen much better from that gun. Even though it is 70 years old and it's got a fixed choke barrel, both the Remington Nitro turkeys and the Winchester Super X4s patterned better than what this did. So that should tell you right there something about these Grand Slam shells. They're okay. They are pretty cheap in the grand scheme of things as well. At least one of the cheaper lead shells on the shelf currently anyway. Obviously, I picked up a variety more of these Grand Slam loads recently. We're going to actually start testing them again through a bunch of different chokes now that I have a bunch more variety and see what we can get from them. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Grand Slam shells? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is this a combo you would hunt with? If so, would you push it out to 40 like we see here? Or would you limit your range a little bit more to 30, maybe 35 yards? And maybe what other shells might you want to see us run through that old A-5? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox, so you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see you all in the next one.